in the middleweight division, we got Cam Rowston coming in at -200, going up against Robert Bryczek, who comes in at +170. Now let's start off on the Cam Rowston side of things, who is coming off 2 big knockout victories in his UFC run. The first of which was over Andre Petroski, halting the takedowns of Petroski and then putting a barrage of shots together to finish him. And then the same in the Cody Brundage fight, where he was really able to break Brundage down, specifically in that second round. And then from there, he was able to get Brundage to quit and get the TKO win there. He did get wobbled halfway through round 1 in that fight, but was eventually able to survive, get back on the gas, and then in round 2, it was clear that Brundage knew that there was no way of winning that fight, and he pretty much allowed Rowston to get the ground and pound finish there. Now, the Battle Giraffe, which is a nickname I think he's kind of let go of, but I hope he brings back around, because that's an awesome nickname for a guy that stands 6'3" with a 75-inch reach in the middleweight division. Very good striker. I believe he's a BJJ brown belt as well, and that's often what he's leaned on earlier on in his career to try to get his wins. But in the UFC, obviously on the Contender Series as well, we see him utilize his hands, his knees, his elbows, and that's very dangerous, especially with how he's been able to finish a lot of his opponents as of late. There have been fights in the past where he's kind of been grinded out. Obviously, the Torres Finney fight that he had on the Contender Series, he really struggled there to get away from the grappling, but he was obviously good enough that the UFC decided to bring him back against Brandon Holmes, and he was able to showcase that nasty knockout power as he got Holmes out of there. He's a decent prospect. I'm still a little bit sketched about his striking defense at times. That tall man defense usually doesn't work out too well in the UFC, but if he continues to work on that defense, he's a guy that could absolutely go out there and have a little bit of a run into the rankings of the middleweight division as well. But again, I think he's fallen a lot in love with his striking because of the finish he's been getting as of late. But I'd like to see him continue to mix in the grappling, where he can find himself a little bit safer and not as susceptible to getting his chin cracked. Now, he's going to have to lean on that big time here as he goes up against the power punching stylings of Robert Bryczek, who was finally able to get into the win column as he knocked out Brad Tavares in the 3rd round of their matchup. Now, that was a fight where he was looking to bounce back after that stinker of a UFC debut he had against Ihor Potieria. I believe that was the fight where he had the dubious honor of being the first decision win for Ihor Potieria. But Bryczek was being very predictable that night, right? He was throwing the same combinations. Potieria picked up on it. He was able to land a few takedowns. He was able to land better striking, counter Bryczek as well. But Bryczek had some time to sit on the sidelines, get his wits back about him, come back in with a better game plan, and that's exactly what he ended up showing in the fight against Tavares. Now, Tavares ended the first round with some top control in the first round, but Bryczek still managed to get at least one judge to give him a 10-8 in that round, because he hurt Tavares very badly and nearly put him away. Tavares was able to get back into the fight in the second round, picking up some steam, but then Bryczek eventually landed a big shot in the 3rd round and put together a barrage of shots to get Tavares out of there. Bit of an early stoppage. I could see the case for Tavares, because he was obviously protesting it, but I thought the optics of him getting bombed on the way that he was obviously not a good look. Bryczek, power puncher, loves to crash the pocket with his overhands, has a good hook as well, nasty power in his shots. He is 35 years old, so that's something to definitely take into consideration. But he is a guy that if he goes up against better technical strikers, he could get held at bay. He's also a guy that could get out grappled in some of his spots as well. But I'm very intrigued to see what kind of confidence he comes into this matchup with, especially with finally getting that first UFC win under his belt. Now he's coming into enemy's territory, going up against Cam Rowston, looking to topple the Battle Giraffe. But I think that Rowston will showcase good enough striking, and then maybe mix in that grappling game where Bryczek will not be able to get to his striking, and that should lead to Rowston really getting to his style and eventually finding a TKO or a submission. There is a ton of love coming in on Rowston, because I believe, on Bryczek, because I believe Rowston was closer to about -260 when I studied up on this fight. Now he's down at about -200. I would like, if you shoot on Rowston, maybe just take a little bit of a sprinkle on that Bryczek KO prop, because I think that's Bryczek's best spot or best shot to win this fight, and probably the best hedge opportunity as well. But I think it's going to be Rowston that fights a safe game here, gets into the clinch, gets this fight to the ground, and really starts showcasing his BJJ brown belt. And I think that could lead to him getting to a dominant position, working Bryczek down, and eventually getting a TKO. But I'm going to wait this fight week out. Let's see where this line goes, see if we get some more love on the Bryczek side of things, because I feel like we could, but I do think Rowston still ends up winning this fight, and I think he wins it inside the distance.